Sådan der.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright guys, so my name is John, and I want to tell about sustainable wine philosophy by myself and by my last 13 years of experience in the wine world. I was 18 years old and I went to boarding school. I studied economics and marketing, and I found it extremely boring. I couldn't relate to anything, so I escaped. I had a friend, he moved to Oslo. Classic thing, moving up on the mountain, just going snowboarding for a couple of months, and then he asked me, John, why don't you join me? And I did that, and the intention was 6 months, and became to 6 years. And I was 18, I applied for a job in a big hotel outskirts Oslo, Sundvolden Hotel. And eventually I was able to do stock check, which is probably the most boring thing you can do within the restaurant business. It's counting bottles in a really cold cellar. And my restaurant manager, myself, we came across the same 2 bottles every month. There was Bordeaux wine. It's from a very well-known chateau called Chateau Moteau Rothschild. It's from the vintage 79. And we talked about this wine again and again, and we said, okay, why don't we open one bottle? We're never gonna sell it. It's on a big conference hotel. Who's gonna buy that? So we just opened it and in curiosity to see how it was. And it was amazing, and I was 18 years old, and it blew my mind. Really, it changed everything. So I came from Denmark, and I was playing football, and I came to Norway, outside of Oslo, working with food, which I never had any more relationship to than leverpostej and frikadeller. And all of a sudden I was working with foie gras and sirloins and old Bordeaux. It was a huge difference to what I was used to do. So it continued, and I was working there for years, and after a while I moved to Oslo. And I was lucky enough to have an old manager who paid for an education. An education is a bold term within the wine world. That's 6 months where you attempt to be in Oslo 1 week, and you have a person in front of you who's talking about different terms. One week is Bordeaux, 1 week is Champagne, 1 week is Italy, and it's Spain, etc. So I did that, and on that course I met a person from Oslo. He's a Swedish guy, and he asked me, John, why don't you come and work with me? Why don't you come along Bygdøy Allé 3, which is formerly the most influential and well-known restaurant of Bagatelle in Oslo. And I did that. And I came there, and it was the same wines they served, but on a daily basis, not in a stock check. It was crazy. It was the most amazing wines I ever tasted. And these wines were the wines that you were looking through in books, and people were talking about in the internet, and forums, and discussing every day. So I was there 2 years, and then I learned everything, and I really pushed on. And when you sit down with your colleague, and he asks you, so John, if you wanna do service in this restaurant, please name some vineyards, Premier Cru vineyards in Burgundy, so he can be sure that I know what I'm talking about in front of the guests. And we were sitting in Grünerløkka in Oslo, and I couldn't name anyone. So I went home and I started to read and I started to study for 2 years intensively, hard in Oslo. And when this restaurant closed in 2009, I asked the chef if he could help me to get a new position outside Scandinavia because I was really motivated. I want to study more about these style of wines. So I moved to England and I came outside London, west of London, in a small city called Bray, and it was exactly the same. It was working hard services every day. On a Monday, you came into the restaurant and you were doing blind tasting with 7, 8, 9 different people in the restaurant, and it was static in a way that, okay, you worked in Oslo, you worked on the best restaurant in Oslo, and then you moved to outside of London, and then you work on a really, really high-end restaurant. The wines in England was broader, from everywhere, around in the world, from Chile to South Africa, Australia, California, etc. But the people who was working there and the people who was drinking the wines, they have an idea of what wines were. And one of the classic terms in wine and in food in Scandinavia has become when you've been drinking something and you're raised with this, and then you stay to this. This is your reference point. And reference point is something that I want to get out of. I want to get out of normality, and I want to taste something new. So I was very, very happy when people in Copenhagen asked me if I want to come and work and be able to start a new place and a new era in this restaurant. And we did this, and I came to Copenhagen in 2011. And when you've been working with classic wines, where you have Jancis Robinson, you have Hugh Jackson, you have all the big writers. They all done huge, amazing books, which are foundation of education everywhere in the wine world. You come to a little city in Northern Europe, in Copenhagen, and then all of a sudden,
Don't worry, it's just a wine bottle.
yeah, all of a sudden, things are different.
Indeed.
What was that, Tim?
It was this bottle.
It's alive, man. So I came from things in a box, in a piece of paper. So if you're grown up, you do education, you study, get experience, and people around you are in a piece of paper. They are in a box. Everyone is studying the same. So who knows most about these lines? Who has the best memory? Who has the most experience? Who can do the biggest competition according to this piece of paper? Not according to your own experience, but to this. I came to Copenhagen, and then the first thing I was doing was sitting down under a bridge in the central part of Copenhagen, and I was tasting wine. Of course, I was working as a wine waiter in a new restaurant, and it looked like this. This is the contradiction to Sancerre. Sancerre, everyone knows Sancerre. This is made of Sauvignon Blanc. It's made in France. It's super light in color. It smells of lime. It smells like cut grass. It smells like tomato stalks, etc. And then all of a sudden, Sancerre didn't do that at all. So it changed my mind in 2011. And we're talking about natural wine. We're talking about a different style of philosophy, where you usually have a way of making wine according to rules. So natural wines in the broad perspective is it's not defined. It's a word where I'm on stage now, and tomorrow there can be another one, and the day after tomorrow there can be a third one. But champagne is a different thing. Everyone knows what champagne is. It's a luxury brand from France. It's bubbly, it's sparkly, and it's made with 7 grapes, but 3 which is well known. And you do a still wine, which is usually around 10-11% of alcohol. And after that, you add sugar, and you add yeast, and you put it in a bottle like this, and then you leave it for a certain period, and it starts to ferment. This is the second fermentation. And after that, you kick out the dead yeast cells, and then you add a new wine, and then you have champagne. Everyone knows that. It's set by rule. It's in the paper. But natural wine is not that. It's something completely different. And leave no doubt, natural wine is here to stay. It started in the 70s, in the 80s, when there was a group of people in Beaujolais in France. They said, okay, we had the post area of World War II, and this is really shitty period. We don't make any money. Everyone is using extreme amount of fertilizers, and we just want to make better wine. So we saw that increase in fertilizers produced better fruit. So we went away from that. We went organic. And then in the 90s, they went biodynamic, which was crazy. Disruption within an era is coffee. In 2007, 2008, when you started, there was some of you who started to produce light coffee, roast it really light instead of burning it really hard. So you had pure fruit. There are some winemakers, they start to produce wine with natural yeast. They start to produce wine with no added sulfites, with low filtration or no filtration to produce cleaner yeast. And this is where we are today. So we're gonna taste 4 wines. I want to make an example of what natural wine is, or what sustainable wine is, or raw wine, or whatever, naked wine, whatever you're gonna call it. I lost the view on each table, but there should be a glass, 1 glass and 2 water glasses per person. So we're gonna do the tasting now. Okay, so if everyone have a wine glass, please raise it. Yeah, and 2 water glasses per person. 2 water glasses per person. Cool. So, in the beginning of the new millennium, there was a change in drinking dry wine from Germany. People have been drinking Riesling, or dry German wine, for many years. And when I was working in a restaurant in 2008, people, there was like, okay, on the wine menu, are you really gonna serve dry German Riesling? Are you sure this is high quality? That was in 2008. Today, these wines go on auctions. They're really high valued. In 2008, when I met Tim, everyone was talking about lighter roasted coffee. In the restaurant business, it was crazy. No one really knew what he was meaning. No one knew what you guys were talking about. No one had a clue. 10 years after, we're sitting here. Natural wine just kicked off eventually, and it's inevitable. It's gonna grow even more. So I want to give you examples of what it is, and please, when you taste, forget about talking about aroma. Forget about talking about medium complexity or high acidity, or this smells of black currants, or this smells of green apples. This is not what this is about. This is a live product, and it is about the liveliness in the glass. So there should be 2 water glasses per person, and please, there are 2 different types of apple juices. So if everyone can pour an apple juice around, quick.
Which one is the other apple juice?
There's 2. There should be one in a box and one in a glass bottle.
So you're missing a box.
Two glasses. All right. So please, on your right hand, raise the yellow's most. Not that one. Yes, the one that's most yellow.
The one that looks
That's
like
most
Sunday morning
clear.
viewing.
Yes, Sunday morning. All right. Everyone have the same. Everyone have the same. Please have a. This is non-alcoholic, so if anyone is driving, you're clear to drink.
Taste it.
Mm.
So nice.
Yeah, apple. This is apple. Okay, it's made from apples. Please, on your left-hand side, have a big sip of the other one. Okay, 2 different juices, both made of apples. One is filtered, the other one is not filtered. Which one do you prefer? Left one? Left one. So, there are a bottle which is brown. This one? Yeah, please, can you just raise it so everyone can see it?
This one?
Yes, raise it.
Why don't you raise it?
Please. Please have a glass of this one. In the wine glass.
In the wine glass.
In the
Don't
wine
be shy,
glass.
people. Pour yourselves some wines. We're here to enjoy.
Okay, everyone got a glass?
And there's the 7th table, wasn't it?
The 7th table is named Morten Bendersgaard. Just give the leftovers to him. I'm sorry, Morten, I love you.
Love you. All right, so this is Spanish wine. Okay, it's from south of Barcelona, a couple of hours driving. Made by Jordi Laurence in 2016. So it's made in amphora, so old clay pots. And his family has been producing wines for many years, sold to cooperative and other producers. In 2012, he really started to produce wines on his own, on a more ambition way. This is an example of Macabeo, which is unfiltered, harvested and put in clay pots, and then bottled with no sulfites, with no additives. This is pure grapefruit. Mm. And I really, this is the last talk today.
Yes.
Yes. So I don't want people. I don't want to ask people to drink, but I really recommend that you guys have one of the first 3 glasses and really have a big sip, because this tasting doesn't matter about how it smells, where it's from. It is the feeling. It is the feeling, how it feels when you drink it and you consume it. When it goes down your throat, how does it feel? So please have a good sip of this one and think about it.
Think of the environment and drink up so we don't have to throw anything away.
Yeah, yeah.
Prevent climate
That's
change.
Yeah. Drink up. Okay, so if we can just move on to the next wine, which is a sparkling wine. Yeah. Yeah. Hold it. This one. Okay. With small insects. Okay, so this is a type of sparkling wine which is known as Pétnat. Pétnat is shortcut of Pétillant Naturel, which is a French name of natural sparkling wine. So they harvest the grapes and then they ferment it, put it in the bottle, and add a closure to the bottle, and then it's finished. And they leave all the sediments, everything, the yeast, the sugar inside to develop bubbles and CO2, and then eventually it's sparkling. So this is made in Languedoc, southern France, by La Sorga, and it's made of a grape called Grenache. Okay, and again, please enjoy it, but think about when you drink it. Think about the feeling. The feeling is the absolute most important thing tonight. How does it feel when you swallow it?
Good. So John, you talked about champagne. What's the difference between this type of production and making champagne?
So champagne is made in France in a restricted area, where you usually produce a still wine made up of 3 different wines. You're allowed to use 7, but the last 4 of the 7, they are going out of production. It's not allowed to do reproduction of these grapes. So Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier are used to make a still wine, which is usually around 10-11% of alcohol. And then you can mature the wines in barriques to get oaky aromas. You can also put them in stainless steel just to keep them constant. And then to produce the bubbles, you use this still wine, which is 10-11% of alcohol. You put it in a bottle, you add sugar and you add yeast, and you leave them there for a certain amount of time, period, according to what quality of champagne you want to do. When they've been laying down there, they sort of raise the bottle upside down and they kick out the dead yeast cells and they add new wine, maybe some sugar if you want to produce a sweet champagne, and they put it on the market. It's a handmade, developed style of, and very controlled style of sparkling wine. The other one you taste now is not controlled at all. It's very wild. Nature leaves everything. You produce a base wine and you put it in a bottle and you put a closure and then you leave it. And sometimes it goes well. Other times it goes wild. Yeah. There's a big difference. Okay. So please either drink up or pour it out on in one of your juice glasses, and then have this. There are gonna be hopefully 2 plastic containers on each table. One on top of one of them will be a cork, which is Godugau. Godugau cork. The other one is a green plastic or I don't know, metallic cork. This is this wine is from Austria. It's from Burgenland, which is one of the lesser known areas in Austria, close to the Hungarian border. Godugau, we started in 2007. They live in the city of Ogau, or village of Ogau, which is the next last city before the Hungarian border. So this is a wine made of Grüner Veltliner. Grüner Veltliner is probably the one most well-known green grape of Austria, and when people are talking about this grape, the majority of the wines are coming from Wachau and Kamptal and Krimstal. But this is from Neusiedlersee. And they use skin contact to extract color and flavor from the skins. And they put it in barrels to get aromas from the barrels. And then they bottle it. And if anyone think it smells like nail polish, yeah, you're probably right. It's called volatile acidity. Left hand. Okay? It has a green stopper on top. Okay? Does everyone have two glasses of wine, where the left one is very clear and the other one in your right hand is unfiltered? We need. It doesn't matter what wine is on your right hand. It just has to be unfiltered.
There is a bottle here, so it doesn't matter what unfiltered wine you have in the other glass. You have a filtered wine? Is someone lacking unfiltered?
Okay. I'm going to read this for you. My version of natural wine. An innovative approach to sustainable and honest viticulture, and the philosophy of avoid modern technology, but use its knowledge, thus leave the nature to unfold all the way from grapes to glass. And the ascension of that is what you have now in your glasses. So please raise your right hand, have a tiny sip of that, and then you'll feel the difference between the definition of natural wine, which is undefined, but okay? On your left hand, you have a wine which is classical. This is what we've been drinking the last 20 years. Please don't drink. Please don't drink, but understand the idea. This is about feeling. This is about how you feel when you drink beverages. So the swallow test comes now. Have a big sip of your left hand, big one, and try to feel and don't think about what it tastes like, but feel how it is when it runs down your throat and you need to sink 3 or 4 times to digest it. Okay? And on your right hand, have a big sip. Aye. Yeah, okay, yeah. The unfiltered wines, have a big sip. Okay? Do you feel the difference? Usually there are big round of applause when this happens, but no, but does it make sense? Okay. Does it make sense? That's important. That's my definition of natural wine and not natural wine. Doesn't matter. Both the last wine, which is most filtered, which is most clear in the glass, is an organic wine. Just as all the other 3 wines you've been tasting. But why is this wine so different to the first 3? Why there's such a huge difference in the feeling when you drink it? No, it's actually more expensive.
Is it?
Yeah. My idea is that you don't add a lot of stuff. If you take an example of me 3 years ago when I produced a wine in Malmö, south of Skåne. We had, I think, 200 bottles, and they contained 8.5% of alcohol. It was really light. It looked like this, and there was no fruit. It was super acidic. And we went to Austria, to a small village, and we asked the local wine shop whether he could help us to produce wine with higher alcohol, more fruit, more tannins, more flavor. And he went out and he printed various pages, and he came with ingredients to put in to this wine. Enzymes, yeast, bacteria. He said to us that if you have 10,000 liters of grape juice and you have a cold vintage with low sugar development in the vineyard, if you want to produce 1% more of alcohol, you need to add 1 ton of sugar per 10,000 liter grape juice. That's pretty crazy. So when we go back to champagne and how that's produced, the second biggest agriculture in Champagne, I believe, I don't have the facts down on paper, but I believe it's sugar beets. So if you drive through Champagne and you look there, and it's gonna be sugar beets everywhere because they use so much sugar to produce wine. So is that in balance, or is it something where you just add up to produce a wine which is for your market? I know what I want. Finished.
John, thank you. Any quick questions? There is room for 1 question. Morten Sletten? No questions this time? Excellent. Thank you so much, John. Oh,
Thank
there's
you.
1 question.
One
Woo!
Yeah, I was just going to ask, recently a master of wine came to cup with us, and it was really interesting to hear his perspective on cupping. I was just wondering, with natural wines, is that now included in the curriculum for sommeliers, or is natural wine still pushed to the side?
When you started with light roasted coffee in 2007 or 8, or whenever that was, 10 years, 15 years ago, was that divided into a group of people? Yeah. So yes, it is. In the beginning of the new millennium, something happened in Germany. And people said, yeah, man, we're going to produce dry Riesling. Completely dry. High quality. And there was people questioning that because Riesling, German wine, German white wine, there was usually some shitty, flappy, unbalanced sweet thing that you bought on the gas station wherever you were able to buy wine. And then all of a sudden they came with high quality. In 2008, 2007, 2009, the quality of coffee increased enormously. That's 10 years ago. And then all of a sudden natural wine, they increased. And of course, there will be differences. There will be someone who say, I like my sweet German Riesling. I like my burnt to charcoal coffee. And I like my wine full of other ingredients than grapes. So yeah, there are contradictions, big differences.